Well, good morning, everybody. I'm struggling a little bit with allergies, but I think my voice is going to hold out this morning, but it's just that time of year. But welcome, and I'm really excited that all of you are going to get to do advising this semester. I absolutely love working with the students, and I hope you appreciate that too. It's kind of a really important semester where we kind of help guide them through. So we'll go ahead and get started because I have quite a bit to cover, and so we're going to talk a little bit about resources that are available to you, then also plans of study, kind of how to use them, where to find them, that kind of thing. Connecting with students, that's going to be very important this semester. I know especially our freshmen are struggling with getting connected with everyone due to the current circumstances. So also getting to know your advisees, what are important things to know as you're advising them, and referrals and resources available to you. So just some basic resources that you're probably already familiar with, but I just want to remind you about that there are lots of information out there already on data review that you can learn about your students. Also on Starfish. Between those two, I'll be referring to those a couple of times during my presentation of what you can find and where, and hopefully that will help you kind of navigate where the current information is. Also, the course catalogs, the current catalog is up on the registrar's website, and that has lots of information that I use the index of the catalog all the time still after all the years of advising that I've been doing. So it's really helpful. And then also if you just have some general university student life type questions, you can reference the student handbook that is also up online. So getting started, I will tell you that plans of study are really important and will be your friend because you can lean on them and see kind of how you want to structure the plan, individualized plans of study for the students. So I strongly encourage you before you start doing the academic advising for registration that you review the 8-semester plan of study for the majors you'll be advising. We do have a link here to reference you to the degree maps as needed. I know over the last couple of years, many of you probably helped prepare some of the degree maps for each of the majors, and that will give you a guide. Now, I'm not going to say this is something that you have to stick to perfectly, because when they start adding minors or Christ College or other programs, you're going to need to adapt that. But that'll be your outline to follow and then to adapt when you personalize plans of study. Make sure you know the prerequisites for each of the courses and what semester the courses are offered. Now, as a faculty advisors, then I think you're probably going to be most familiar with that because you have a large part in the curriculum. And so just make sure that you're aware of those that are outside of your area, especially things like, for me, it's keeping track of calculus, and there's a grade requirement to move on to the next in the sequence. And those are just things to be really careful to watch and make sure that you're advising your students of as you're going through the semester and doing wellness checks on them. Become familiar with the general education requirements in your department. It's a little bit different in each of the colleges, so I'm not going to go in depth about the general education requirements in A&S because I'm familiar with the ones in engineering, and they're just slightly different, so I don't want to mess that up. Like our general humanities and social science, we can do more than one in one area, and I don't think in arts and sciences you can. So just make sure you become familiar with that. There's definitely explanations of that in the catalog, and I'm sure others in your department can help you with that if you're not already familiar. Now, this is my favorite part, is connecting with the students. Although I'm organized and I like to go through the details of the plans of study, I really like to get to know the students because sometimes you have to drag that information out of them to kind of get to know them a little bit. But once you do, it really helps you be a better advisor. So you want to let them know how to schedule an appointment with you. Number one, you've got to come up with a plan. And I will tell you, after having done it in my first year or two of advising, I do not recommend just emailing back and forth. That is a nightmare because by the time you get something settled on, your schedule will have changed. And so I strongly suggest two very good opportunities. Starfish is number one. You can set up your office hours for advising on Starfish, and they can schedule through that. You can also use an app like You Can Book Me. So it's kind of your preference. Maybe you have something already set up, but I strongly encourage you to get one place where they can go and they know they can always schedule you. And then you can also include something in your signature of in your signature data at the end of your email. So that's really helpful. You want to make sure, and I know this takes a lot of time, and I know the registrar's office does send out some reminders, but I usually, for the big important dates that are coming up, I send an email out to my advisees, and that is pretty easy to do on DataView. If you haven't done it before, you can just send an email to your whole advisee list on DataView. You just go to, I believe, My Students, and then you can see the an option at the top of your list of students to email all, or you can email select students on your list. So I usually send out important dates like the withdrawal deadline or the deadline to ask for SU grading in a course, those types of things. I also do well-being checks on them, especially when starfish flags and things like that come up, just to make sure everything is going well and see what I can do to help them. So as far as starfish follow-ups go, you'll see a variety of flags. Now you're on the faculty side, if you haven't been doing advising and you've been doing the faculty version on starfish, then you know that you can submit flags for various things. Well, on the advisor side, what we're supposed to do is we need to follow up with that. So you'll get various flags for attendance, participation, poor performance, and you need to make sure that you follow up on those, reach out to the students. Now, everybody will have a little bit different variety. I am in a unique role where I'm a direct primary advisor for some students, but I'm also an assistant dean. So I reach out to my advisees with one flag. And if as an assistant dean, if I see someone coming through with has 3 or more flags, that I reach out as assistant dean. So that just gives you an idea of my policies on that, but you need to determine when you're gonna reach out to the students. I will tell you it's fairly common that if they have one, they're gonna have more than one because something's going on. And you need to see what is it? Are they feeling disconnected? Are they struggling with some type of medical issue? You just really need to find out what's going on and offer resources to them. You can also use Starfish to schedule advising meetings. You can give them a to-do to meet with their advisor so that they know that they can do that. Now, I suggest that you try it out. Some students are pretty good with following up with to do things on Starfish, and some are not completely engaged yet. So you may need to push them along a little bit to follow up on that. And I personally try to meet with all my advisees at least twice a semester. Now, again, this is my guidelines of what I think works best for my advisees, and it's something you'll need to think about. But I usually try to do a well-being check after the first exam. That may be an email for you, that may be that you ask the students that had poor performance on the first exam to come in and see you. And then I usually make sure that I meet with them for the next semester's schedule. So just some ideas of how to really connect with them. So also you want to get to know a little bit about their history, their circumstances, and their academic plans and interests. So I know that in production right now is a Starfish intake form that's going to be launched sometime this fall. May or may not be able to provide you information for this coming registration round, but I do think this is going to be really helpful in the future, where they're going to ask the students to share information about themselves and their educational journey. So you can watch out for that as it's coming. But in the meantime, you can ask them different questions, or you can look up information on DataView and Starfish to get to know them a little bit better. But some things you want to know is, where are they from? I mean, are they a long way from home? Are they a commuter that's nearby? What is their pronoun? Are they a first-year transfer student? Are they a domestic student or international? This one, I mean, you can't assume this, because there are domestic students that you would think who are international, but they're not, and it does make a difference on how you advise them, especially with some of the international visa concerns that we need to watch. Are they a resident or a commuter? Are they first generation? If they're first generation, I strongly encourage you to take the time to make sure that you are talking to them about some things that you would assume college students would know. But they may not know. They might not know, like, what is a registrar? What do I do with that? So you need to make sure that you go and take care of that. All right, so You also want to talk about academic standing. This is something you really want to watch and see kind of, if they're on probation, you need to spend more time with them. You need to make sure that they are getting the help that they need. And so the academic standing, I strongly encourage you, if you don't already know that, then you can see that on Starfish. So there is on the student profile, you're able to see that. That is information that's available. What are their goals for the semester? So especially if they are on probation, what do they need to do this semester to get off of probation? And what do they see as their goals? So having an understanding between you and your student about the goals that they have will help you facilitate what resources they need and how to help them. Do they have a second major or minor? This is very important, especially when you do the plan of study. Are they interested in study abroad? I don't know how it is in your particular major, but for us, we have to rearrange our schedule a little bit to make study abroad happen in 4 years. And so that's good to know ahead of time. Are they in Christ College? Are they hoping for a 4 or 5 year plan of study? Do they need to take it a little bit slower because they know that they can't take as much in one semester and they've decided to take a 5th year? Or have they decided to do a program that is a 5-year program? Are they required to do an internship? Do they want to do an internship? How are they connecting in that area? So you need to get to know your advisees' involvement on campus as well. I will tell you that just like us, they want to know that they're being seen and that they're being understood, right? So if they're an athlete and they're putting in all the time that they do in athletics, it's really great if you pay attention to how they're doing in athletics. Maybe there was a feature on them. Maybe they had a really good game or a match and you want to just recognize them. It's really important. And then it's also important that we need to help follow the guidelines and keep them in good standing. And we make sure that they stay at 12 credits, those types of things. It's really important. And I know Elizabeth is great at helping out with that if we have questions. So please make sure you reach out to athletics if you have any questions about making sure they stay eligible. Are they in a sorority or fraternity? What about music ensemble or lessons? Now that definitely affects their schedule as well as athletics. Student organizations, other campus organizations, groups. Our students are really very involved, and so we want to make sure that you know what they're up to, how that impacts their schedule, and just that gives you something common to talk to them about as well. So referrals and resources. So this is really important to make sure that they are connecting you with the resources that are necessary. So I would strongly recommend that you continue to encourage them to go to professor office hours, especially if they are struggling in a class. I will tell you that, and Tricia will say this probably later, that the professor office hours are the first line of support for courses. And we continue to encourage them to go to faculty office hours. They also have other resources available on campus that Tricia will talk about a little bit later. There's the Academic Success Center, the HASI Center in Engineering. There's course-specific help sessions and SI sessions that are available, so make sure you're aware of what's available in your department. The Writing Center, always a good resource. As someone who's very much a math and science person, writing is something I've spent more time studying probably than math and physics. So because you need to make sure that you're looking for resources where you want to improve. Counseling services, very, very important to make sure you know what is available there, and that you've kind of thought through how you might share that resource with the student. Because it's a delicate issue, but you want to make sure that you maybe offer several resources at one time and just make sure that they know it's there. I didn't put it on the slide, but Teo Connect is just a self-service online that is a really good opportunity for students to explore that a little bit and a little less threatening step. It's like a baby step into seeing what support the counseling services have. Access and accommodations is also a very important resource that many of our students truly benefit from having the accommodations they need to be their most successful. And so I will tell you that especially freshmen, some of them may have had accommodations through school and they get here and they think I'm a big kid now and I don't need this anymore. And truly, it's not like what they struggle with just disappears just because they're getting older. It's still accommodations that will help them be successful. And we have a great staff in Access and Accommodation. So please make sure you encourage them to seek that support. And then financial aid. We can't really, on the advising side, do a lot with the finances. So making sure that they are connecting with financial aid in Kretzmann Hall is really important so that they can get their specific questions answered for their individual situation. So we're going to talk a little bit through a registration walkthrough, just so you can kind of see what you're going to be doing here coming up in a couple weeks. And that's using DataVU. If you're not already really familiar with DataVU, it's going to become your friend. I spend most of my day on DataVU, so make sure that you kind of get used to that. Check it out. Preparing for registration advising, looking at holds, advising meetings, and follow-up. And then we're going to talk a little bit about adding, dropping, and withdrawing. And then Allie is going to follow up on all of those and just a little bit on the registrar's side. So using DataVU, here are some things that are definitely available in DataVU that will help you. There's a degree audit function that, and Allie will share some examples and review later in the presentation. There's permissions on the student profile screen. So if you go to the student profile, you can see what information you can share with parents. This is extremely important. You have to check that before you talk to any parents to make sure that the student has given permission. And there will be several different menus that they could share. So they might say that you could share finance information with them, but not necessarily their academics. So anytime you have parents reaching out, you need to make sure that you check the student profile screen. You're able to see the student schedule, their current schedule, so you know what's going on there. You can see their current grades. Now, it's not like on Blackboard, so you can see their midterm grades and their final grades and their grades from previous semesters, but you can't see like their grade right now. So you can get like the main points on there. Student transcripts. So you can see a listing of all their grades that they have completed and their transfer credits. And then the student test summary has a wealth of information that not everybody always finds right off. So I would say that when you select a student and you see the different options, definitely want to look at the student test summary because that has their AP scores, that has their world language placement, their math assessment, and some detailed transfer credit information. So very helpful there. Don't miss that. The test summary doesn't always give away what's in that section. So preparing for registration. After getting to know your advisee's academic record and interests, you should be able to prepare a personalized plan of study for them. I will tell you that like the first week after classes started, I had students asking me, can you give me my 4-year plan of study? I'm like, oh my gosh, we're just getting started here. But they want that. So make sure that you are working through that with them. And then in engineering, we actually do like an Excel spreadsheet and we put the plan of study on it and then we can move things around. I find that really helpful, but different areas on campus do it different ways. But I would say think through your plan of how you want to have the regular plan of study, and then when you meet with a student, how you're going to adapt that and keep that up from one registration advising session to the next. Make sure you include gen ed requirements, major requirements, minor requirements, and any additional programs like Christ College and study abroad when they are interested in that. So this is just a slide on just so you can see the Christ College plan of study that's really helpful. So that's a good resource for you. I just want to remind you, if you're not familiar with Christ College, that it does cover a lot of the gen ed requirements. So please make sure that you are looking at it. You're going to see that a lot of like core will be covered. They have a class for Theo 200. They have classes for humanities, social sciences. And so in arts and sciences, you're probably more familiar with that than we are on the professional college side. But I would say as an advisor, you need to be familiar with it and you need to know what requirements that Christ College can fulfill. It's also important to know that Anna Stewart is a great resource for that. And the students will also be meeting with her to make sure that they're staying on track with Christ College. That's a unique program in that there really is 2 advisors that they need to meet with, and Anna will make sure that Christ College is well underway and answer any of their questions that you cannot. As you're preparing or updating the plans of study, it's helpful to check on the student's overview screen of Starfish to see if the students have any holds on their accounts. So when you go into Starfish, and if you haven't already gone through training, you can look at that, but you're going to be able to look and see if they have any holds on their account. It is important to try to help them get holds removed before their registration time, because if they have a hold on their account, they can't register, and then they may not get into the classes they want. So I also want to make sure that you know that it is important to get holds removed, and that you can look at the different student restrictions account holds. There's a link right there, because there are lots of abbreviations. You want to make sure you know what they mean and where to send the students. So in your advising meeting, you want to do a well-being check to see how the semester is going. So that kind of gets the conversation started, address any of those concerns, discuss the student's plan of study, and ask if any changes need to be made. Ask if the student knows when they're eligible to register. So make sure they know where that is, and make sure you know where that is. So that's under the student restrictions tab on DataView. That will tell them, is their way of being able to see if they have any holds and when their registration time is. Answer any questions the student has about DataView. If they're a freshman, they have not used DataView before, and so you want to make sure that they know how to get into registration. And then you need to make sure that you remove the student's advising hold and email their personalized plan of study to them so they know what they're registering for. So to release an advising hold, yet another thing that you get to do on DataView, your friend DataView, and you can go under, you can log in as a faculty member and then go under faculty information. As you can see there by the arrow, that advising confirmation is what you need to do. So you would, on the screen, select the term for which they'll be registering. It will pull a list of your advisees that have active advising holds. And then once you've met with an advisee, you will check a box next to their name, then click submit to release their advising hold. It's pretty quick and simple, but if you don't do that, they have an advising hold and they can't register. So some common registration areas where they will get stopped from registering. There's a hold on the student account, so that we just talked about that. It could be everything from they didn't fill out a form at financial aid, they didn't get their transcript sent, their final transcript sent, they don't have their proper vaccine, so they have a health center hold. There's a whole variety of things, so you want to keep an eye on that. Prerequisite or co-requisite not completed, so definitely pay attention to that when you're advising. If you know they're not going to have a prerequisite or co-requisite, then that's important. If they're taking the co-requisite, they need to register for both the classes at the same time, because it won't allow them to register for one before they have the co-requisite. Prerequisites, if you know that they have a transfer credit that isn't in the system or anything like that, you can get a prerequisite waiver. And most departments have someone that enters prerequisite waivers for you. It's typically someone in the department chair's office or an advisor. Could be a repeat course, and if they're repeating a course, at least Allie can correct me later if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure repeat courses, the advisor has to send an email to get them to take that class. Granted petition or instructor approval is required, so maybe the enrollment in that course is limited and you need permission from the department to do that, or for the instructor. So some common registration messages that students get are in the link at the bottom of the page. Adding and dropping a course. Now, if you have advised before and you're now advising again, things are slightly different and that things are a little bit more automated, and you need to make sure you're staying on top of that. But student schedules can be edited on DataView during open registration and through the first week of classes. Okay, so Chris asked if you accidentally release a hold, how can you go back to that? I don't think you can. Allie, can you correct me if I'm wrong? Are you there that you can unmute? I don't think that you can accidentally go back and change it.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question for me? I was answering someone's question.
Oh, I'm very sorry. So if they accidentally release an advising hold, they can't take that back, right? You just have to make sure that you meet with that student.
No, I mean, you can reach out to our office for assistance, but it's really best if you um, mean it when you release it.
Yeah, Chris, I can tell you I have done it before, and I just made sure I followed up with that student and that they knew what they were doing. So just make sure you pay special attention if you actually do that, to make sure that they're getting the advice they need. So for late registration, you're required to do that within add drop period. So it's a you can add or drop a course after the deadline if you use the late registration form. But otherwise, to do it online, you have to do it within the first week of classes. Late adds can be approved by the dean, so that doesn't go to CAPS, but late drops need to be approved by CAPS, the committee. So make sure that that the student knows that if they're trying to do a late drop, that may be a delay on that, but the late adds can be done more in a timely manner. All right. Satisfactory, unsatisfactory grading. I know this is a lot of stuff all at once here, so I'm going to keep going and then we'll address all the questions at the end if Allie hasn't already taken care of them. So satisfactory, unsatisfactory grade petition. The students can submit that if they feel, for whatever reason, that the grade in that course is something that they are concerned about, and they have a heavy load, or for whatever reason they think that they would rather get a satisfactory or unsatisfactory in the course instead of getting a letter grade. So that means that they have to get a C- or higher to get satisfactory in the class. Advisors must digitally sign the form. So again, this is something new. All the forms are online. And so Allie's going to talk to you a little bit more about that, but you have to make sure that as an advisor that when you get a notice saying that that's, a form has been submitted, you need to respond, because typically the advisor is the first one on the line and nothing's going to move forward until you do. Deadline for form submissions can be found in the catalog. Under the it's usually about the 4th week of the semester. Students cannot use the SU grading option for courses within their major or minor, and a student cannot use the SU grading option for courses that they are repeating. Students can only take one course per semester as SU, but that does not include courses that are designated as SU in the catalog. For example, the Physics 499 colloquium. Withdrawing from a course. I will tell you, and maybe you guys are better, but there are faculty members who don't really define the difference between dropping a course and withdrawing from a course. So it's very important that as an advisor, you know the difference, because dropping a course has to be done during the first week of classes for the semester. And if you drop a course, it doesn't show up on your transcript at all. If a student wants to stop taking a course after the first week of classes until the withdrawal deadline, then they are withdrawing from the course. There's different places, and this trips the students up all the time. No matter whether I continually correct them on what they're trying to do, they still tell me, like in the 4th week of class, I've tried to drop the course on Data VU and it's not working. So I said, that's because you need to withdraw from the course, and there are 2 different links on Data VU. So be patient with them, because it is kind of hard for them to catch it, at least the first time they do it. So if they withdraw from a course, they need to make sure they use the withdraw from a course after the add drop deadline link on Data VU. And it will show up on their transcript, but they'll get a W for it, and it will not affect their GPA. The withdrawals no longer need to be approved by advisors. They used to have to be approved, but they don't. The only thing I will tell you is that you will get a notice of the withdrawal. And if you want it to be processed more quickly than 3 days, because I think they give them a 3-day window, then the advisor can reply to that email to the registrar's office and say, I met with the student, I approved the withdrawal, and then it's usually processed at that time. The advisor instructor will receive a notice from the registrar notifying each that the student has chosen to withdraw from the course. Okay, that was a lot, and I even went 5 minutes over my time, I think. But I'll open it up for questions, and let me pull up the chat here so I can also look. Are there any questions, Allie, that you didn't answer here?
There's only one, and I was about to type the answer. Someone asked, how can a student change a major or add a minor? And There is a curriculum change form, and I actually have a couple slides on forms that'll address that specifically. But basically, there's curriculum change form. They just type it in online and click submit.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? You can either put it into the chat, or you can quickly unmute, and I can take just a minute or two to answer questions and then pass it off to the next person. Okay, sounds great.